Hello, fellow parents and educators. Thank you for joining me at Education Evolution, where we are disrupting the status quo in today's learning models. We talk about present-day education, what's broken, who's fixing it, and how. I'm Dr. Maureen O'Shaughnessy, your host and founder of Education Evolution and the Microschool Coalition, where we are fiercely committed to changing the narrative, to reimagining the education landscape and creating learning that serves all children and prepares them to thrive. Hi, Tom. Thank you for joining us today.
Hey, Maureen.
I'm really curious about your background. There's a story there, I know, because I see mineral engineering, energy finance, first executive director of education for the Gates Foundation. I know you have Getting Smart, this wonderful business focused on educational innovation. You're a prolific author. You're LinkedIn's top voice in education. What's your story? How did this all come about?
First of all, I'll apologize for somebody mowing the lawn outside. This is just like at schools where they always decide to mow the lawn during silent sustained reading.
Yes.
I had a career in energy and retail and business, and a variety of things led me to come to understand when I was 32 that I needed to spend the rest of my life trying to make a difference for kids and help communities deliver great education. And I did have the opportunity to become one of the first business executives to try to be a public school superintendent. And after 5 years of that, helped Bill and Melinda start the Gates Foundation. And so I've spent the last 30 years really trying to help educators figure out what to do next, what the future looks like. And so for the last 10 years, I've had the chance to work with my family and a great team at Getting Smart in a mixture of advocacy and advisory, just trying to help education leaders invent the future.
Wow. And we definitely need to be evolving into the future. So your work is very important. I'm wondering too, you just released a book on place-based education. And I know that that is much more than local service projects or environmental work with students in their communities. Can you talk about what it is and why it's important?
Yeah, it was really a fun project. I joined the advisory board at Teton Science Schools, tetonscience.org. It's really the global leader in place-based education. I joined their board about 4 years ago. They not only run a great network of schools in Wyoming and Idaho, but they serve about 20,000 young people from all over the country who come to the Tetons to learn outdoor around year-round. They've also launched a national network of schools called the Place Schools, which serve, they help create micro schools, often in rural areas. Something that you know a lot about, the benefits of creating a small focused school.
Absolutely.
We use the design principles from Teton Science to frame the core chapters of the book, and I'll just mention each of those because they're things that are common at your school, Maureen, and I think create a beautiful framework for thinking about the learning. The first one is community as classroom. And it's interesting, having been writing about this topic for 3 years and having worked on the book. We just finished writing the book about 380 days ago. And for it to be published on the day that the WHO declared the pandemic, it's sort of interesting and ironic to have a book on community as classroom when suddenly the community is the classroom for everyone globally. So the notion here is just to help teachers and school administrators think broadly about the assets in the community and how they and parents really can put to work all the assets that exist in every community. And related to that is local to global, the idea of every place has something to teach. And It's often a useful strategy to immerse kids in local community-connected problems, and that helps them build a bridge to global understanding. So that could mean going outside your classroom and watching where the rain goes and following it to a drainage ditch, and then thinking about the watershed and where that empties into a river and how the river empties into the ocean. That's the local to global. And the cool thing is it works the other direction too. If kids hear about something like climate change, a teacher can then identify a local aspect of that. So it can go global to local and local to global. Related to that is inquiry based, just instead of working on small problems with simple answers, and inviting more often kids into thinking about big problems with maybe problems with no answers, but a real focus on inquiry, particularly in project-based learning. Learner-centered is another design principle of trying hard to create classrooms and schools that really meet kids where they are and build a sense of agency where teachers are really facilitators of learning. Another one is using design thinking to approach complexity. So it's a structured approach to creative problem solving. We find that when kids have enough reps in design thinking, they're able to walk into complexity and know what to do first. The last one's just an interdisciplinary approach. The world is inherently interdisciplinary, and so this is broadly speaking an encouragement to help kids engage in more community-connected interdisciplinary projects. So those are the core elements of the book. It was written really as a guidebook for teachers, but we think a lot of parents and community leaders will enjoy it as well.
Oh, definitely. I could see it having wide applications. I also think that with our present pandemic, this lens of place might even be more important. What are your thoughts,
Yeah, I
Tom?
think so. I think there's a variety of things that I think have to consider as we start planning for school in the fall. One is that all students are going to experience this closure differently. Some are going to come back to school with accelerated learning. They might be a year ahead. Some will have regressed and maybe experienced some significant trauma. So I think we need to check in with kids emotionally and physically and academically, and then try hard to make our classrooms and schools more agile so that we can meet kids where they are. Kids will have experienced a lot more agency, a lot more voice and choice. So I think we need to think about ways that we can create environments and experiences that are more inviting, that more frequently allow students to think about path and pace and place, just in terms of where and how they learn, because they'll have spent 6 months sort of learning at the couch or learning at the kitchen table, and so how can we make a classroom that's more inviting with more optionality? And finally, kids are going to have experienced a lot more real world learning, and so how to incorporate more real world learning, more community connected learning, this idea of community as classroom. I think those are all things that we need to think about as we go into the fall.
That makes perfect sense. I agree. We really can be learning from this experience, and we don't have to go back to what we had before, and hopefully we'll go back better and stronger than we were before. So your ideas are wonderful.
It's terribly challenging. I don't want to downplay the fact that 20 or 30 million families are really, really struggling with very basic needs, and it really puts tens of millions of kids at a really dangerous, if not just disadvantageous circumstances. So I do think we need to open school as quickly as possible, look for ways to de-risk learning environments, but again, get as many students as we can, as quickly as we can, back into healthy, inviting learning environments.
I completely agree. Our school's still going in real time, and the levels of stress with the kids, the levels of uncertainty, and we've kept a structure going. So I think it's even crazier for a lot of families that have had a gap in school or have assignments sent home and are kind of doing things in isolation. The sooner we can get back to our classrooms and to that face-to-face engagement and hopefully enhance learning, the better.
It's stressed, I think, to all of us how important relationships are. There's a lot that we can do to help kids learn wherever they are, your school's doing a great job of maintaining those relationships as best you can at a distance. But it is a reminder that most of us are motivated by relationships and grow in community, and I know a lot of teachers and students are eager to get back into that physical sense of community that they so appreciate.
Absolutely. My final question is always something along the lines of having a magic wand. So, you've explored so many ways education can be innovating and how we can be evolving. If you did have the proverbial magic wand, what most would you want to bestow upon our learning systems for the benefit of our children and the benefit of the world?
Well, this will probably make you smile, Maureen, but I'd like to see millions of micro schools around the world. We think even inside large comprehensive schools, the best possible way to invent the future is to create our a small version of our best conception of what that set of experiences and environments could be, and starting with maybe a double classroom and two teachers and 30 students, and really attempting to do the things that we've been talking about: high agency, project based environment where students are doing real work and progressing as they demonstrate growth. So I think there's great opportunity to pilot the future in micro schools. I think micro schools can be attached to community assets, and here in the Pacific Northwest, we love SAMI, a school at the Tacoma Zoo, and SODA is an art school in the theater district. So every community has a set of assets, and we think museums and businesses and parks all can be leveraged through a micro school. So both to invent the future and leverage local assets. I think developing more micro schools is a strategy that can be used in countries rich and developing to dramatically increase the number of young people in highly valuable experiences.
Oh my gosh, I'm standing here doing a happy dance, Tom, because yes, yes, yes. I think so many more options for our kids, so many more ways for them to get to learn, and smaller so that there is that relationship piece you talked about. I wish the same for our world. Thank you. Thank you for sharing with us today and for all that you are doing to help us move education into the future and better serve our kids. I really appreciate your time, Tom.
Thanks for reaching out, Maureen, and thanks to you and your team for the great work that you're doing, and for being agile enough to keep it going even during a pandemic. So a lot of us appreciate your leadership and the way you're helping to invent the future.
Well, thank you. And have a great afternoon. What a treat to get time with such a prolific educational innovator, someone who's really getting the word out and making a difference for our students. There's really not a lot to add to his complete picture of what amazing learning could look like, but I would like to share some of the resources and unpack a couple of the concepts a bit. First of all, the book that Tom co-authored is The Power of Place: Authentic Learning Through Place-Based Education. And I have all of these details and more in my show notes. I want that to be a resource for you, so be sure to check in there. When Tom talks about the 5 principles of being a place-based school, his idea of community as the classroom makes me think of the high-tech high model, which has taken off in California, and kids and community members are collaborating on amazing projects. You might want to check that out and their 2015 documentary, Most Likely to Succeed. Another feature that Tom talked about is inquiry or project-based learning. And the Buck Institute is a great resource for a lot of project-based learning ideas to help people get started in bigger projects, not short little activities, but projects that engage the students. And the overall structure of engaging students, design thinking, is so powerful. What our micro school uses is Giuliani and Spencer's launch cycle for design thinking, and that is very helpful for us. We really want to make sure that our schools are agile, able to move quickly and easily. And we want to make sure that we're adapting to the students. And the result will be agency. And as we know, student agency is when they get to learn through activities that are meaningful and relevant to them, when students are driven by their interests, and a lot of times they get to self-initiate and get some appropriate guidance from the teachers. So it gives students voice, often choice, and helps them determine the path, the pace, and the place where they are learning. We really want this for all of our students. And I think that's most easily done being agile and able to provide student agency when, like Tom said, we have lots of small places, small that can be nimble, that isn't trying to adjust and accommodate 1,000 different students. So when Tom said he'd like to see millions of micro schools around the world, that could be inside of larger schools, not a problem. But we are going to have our most success, and we're going to be able to invent the future when we can do a small version of our best conception, and then we can have more of them or grow them. So, Tom, thank you for sharing all of your ideas, your recent book, and your vision of how we can invent our future for learning. Thanks again for listening. To support the education evolution, subscribe so it lands in your podcast app and gets out to more decision makers. Then rate and review it. For more information and show notes, go to educationevolution.org. Education Evolution listeners, you are the ones to ensure we create classrooms where each student is seen, heard, valued, and thriving. We are in this together, and we need you. Let's go out and reach every student today. Thank you for listening. Signing off, I am Maureen O'Shaughnessy, your partner in boldly reimagining education.